You are ready. I'm impressed. How you doing today, man? Could be better. Today's going to be a long one for me. Obviously, I'm too lazy to set up the green screen, so sorry about that. Get to look at my shitty junk shelves full of crap for work. Should really clean up the office. Starting 2 new pieces, and since the rough sketches never take that much time, I'm probably going to be pretty short today, but we'll see. Maybe it won't. Starting one elven, half-elf druid with an uncontrollable fire magic problem, and one 10-year-old princess, I think. Maybe, I guess she's not a princess. She's rich? Yeah, unclear. We'll find out together. So, the reference art for the druid is very small and kind of blurry, so I'm going to start with that one and try to get some of the hard stuff out of the way first. Okay, so what was that? Wednesday, I found out that a programming project that I'm working on was gonna take 10 times the amount of time and money that I thought it would. So I had to kind of spend a bunch of time replanning that and like figuring out how I can try to optimize the project and figure out how to like deliver that message to my boss, or rather to the client, without pissing them off, basically. So there was a lot of report generation and research and all kinds of stuff like that had to go on Wednesday night, and then Thursday morning I had no wherewithal to actually get any drawing done. I would have been sitting there thinking about the programming project the entire time anyway, so sorry. Sometimes other things interfere. Yeah, we were just talking about Bridal Builder. Welcome back, UB. You know what's up. Hey, I'll send you the slides when I'm done with this, so that you can look at those in case you missed some of the beginning of the meeting. I don't know when I'm even when we'll start, you know what I mean, so. that way you'll kind of have an idea of what's up before getting there. Yeah, it's gonna be a long day for me, man. I'm gonna try to take it easy. Like, I'm trying to be real chill this morning with my drawing. Trying to be relaxed and like not bent out of shape. I'm gonna try not to do any actual programming today. Like, try not to solve any really heavy brain problems and like DevOps stuff for Bridal Builder, because that just takes it out of me, and I need to be able to get up to Steven's point, deliver this meeting, whatever it's going to be, and then make it home without passing out in the car. Since I have no backup driver. I think it's gonna have to be the cocaine. So, funny story. When I was a kid, I was a bad kid. I was drinking the Coke, not the cocaine. I would drink like Pepsi and Coke and soda and stuff before bed, like all the time. And so what ended up happening is I sort of like made myself immune to caffeine somehow. So having like a Coke or like a power drink or whatever, 5 Hour Energy or something like that, basically just doesn't have an effect on me anymore. But yeah, I'm gonna have to try to keep my shit together. Yeah. Which is funny because I don't really drink soda anymore, but the tolerance is still basically there. Yeah, I can see that happening. My wife is a big tea drinker, and so she just realized that like having that much caffeine is like giving her anxiety and stuff, so she's trying to get off of, like, she's trying to move towards decaf, and that's kind of having similar effects. See, I wish I had that capability still. I wish I could be like, look, I need to be awake now. But it just doesn't work. Yeah, she's got a pretty good stockpile, but like there's a number that she wants to try or get more of that aren't they're just not available that way, or not popularly available that way. I don't know. I don't drink that much tea, so kind of I guess it's kind of a not my problem, and now I feel bad. Now I should figure out how to get her some good caffeine-free tea that is in the variety that she's after. Not lately. I do have plenty of insulin syringes, though. kind of a long way for one of those. I ain't made out of money. Oh shit. There you have it. That must have been the last time we had a meeting in Madison and you were checking. See how that would be. Man, I'm really not feeling this one yet. Fortunately, yes. Yeah, I figured it'd be way like it felt really stupid to be like, okay, when does everybody have time to drive to Madison? And I'm like, why don't I just come over there, man? Could you? I don't know. What's the market rate on cocaine right now? Is this bad for Twitch? Am I gonna get banned? Right. Oh. Oh. Yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, it's weird because for some, I guess I act like I'm important, so it seems like a lot of people seem to default to what my schedule is, and I'm like, I work when I want. Like, I have a schedule, but I can go do whatever, you know. Like, I don't have a boss telling me when to get to work on stuff. I can just call the shots. Yeah, that's what I mean, is like everybody else has way more difficult schedules than me. And yet people are always asking me when I can do the thing. What's best for me? So I'll just sleep in a lot. I don't know, like, it kind of depends. I don't know how long the meeting's gonna take, you know? Like, it could be another long running one, or it could be like it could be like 15 minutes, you know, like let's talk about the thing. Okay, here's what's gotta happen. All right, we're done. See ya. Oh, who knows? I doubt the latter, though. This is... Yeah, I might actually just like take a nap this afternoon to try to like shift some of my like awakeness from earlier in the day to later in the day. But I really suck at naps. Like, every time I have a nap, I enjoy the idea of like taking a nap, but then I take a nap and it gives me a pounding headache like every time. I guess I'm just not supposed to. long nose. Shit. Yeah, I've been trying to do more meditation, actually. This is so fucked up. Fuck all of this. My God. You had to ask the hardest question. Okay, let's enumerate. Okay, projects that are going right now. Bridal Builder. Commissions, which, like, is a number of, like, a billion sub-projects. I have miniature projects to do for cleanup on Richard's game. I have a wiki that I'm trying to build. Program. And then I have Antum, which needs to get finished somehow. And those are like the main ones, like the ones that I would call work. And then I've got like set up a new role-playing game, run the other role-playing game, try to get a third role-playing game finished. So. I don't know. I feel like it would be weird if I hadn't, but I don't remember anything specifically offhand. Yeah, I can't think of anything. I want to say that there was probably something in one of the games that I commissioned at some point, but I can't think of anything. I think the other thing is, like, because I use a lot of my art for games, and the games are projects that need to get done, most of the time I'm thinking about the artwork as like a linchpin thing. Like, I've seen too many Kickstarter projects fail because a contractor didn't follow through, and like for me, like the number one priority is making absolutely sure the project finishes. So I'm extraordinarily hesitant to put my faith in someone else that I don't have control over, and be like, here, do this thing for me, because then I feel like I'm losing control of the schedule and the project that way. Yeah, I mean, even back as far as college, I can't remember. Like, I remember being the one who was drawing people's characters. I remember receiving art from somebody, but it wasn't really a commission thing. It was just kind of a, like, this guy did sketches and he was like, "Hey, I want to sketch your character," because we were like the leaders of the gaming and anime clubs. He's like, "What's your character? I'll draw that." What's my favorite RPG character that I've played? Probably Fangtail. Fangtail is the character on my stream who has the long ears and is like purple and cyan and stuff. She's the one that pops up whenever there's a Twitch notification. This is my OC. This is Fangtail. She's adorable. One sec. Got a plan. And a plan. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, what a blast that character was. Fangtail was introduced into somebody else's. I'm gonna get there. Fangtail was introduced into somebody else's tabletop RPG when we first moved back to Madison. And my best friend was already running a campaign that was kind of set in the Critical Role universe. And I'm not a Critical Role fan watcher, so I have no idea what all the what all the stuff was that was going on. So I basically said, like, here's this weird idea for this character. I want to play the evil overlord's former familiar. And my GM was like, I think I can make that work. And I'm like, good luck to you. It sounds like it would be hard from your end. But yeah, so like the gimmick was, she was like an alchemical experiment. Like this master of hers had just generally, made tons and tons of creatures and beings and stuff, as you do as an evil overlord. So she was created basically to be one of the bad guys, and then after some amount of time, she, like, the master made a new, better familiar, and so she got, like, basically thrown out, and somehow managed to survive, and was basically had amnesia about the specifics of her master, because, you know, he's like, okay, well, let's wipe her brain, because that would be a real stupid, extra stupid move. Yeah, so she basically got pitched in the garbage, and the party ended up like meeting her stuck up a tree because there was like this undead horseman, like Death Knight guy that had like chased her around, possibly because like the master was trying to make sure that she was gotten rid of for real. So yeah, like she was a blast. She was like strangely naive about certain things. So it was like entertaining for her. Like basically she had no moral compass. she sort of was like chaotic neutral via naivety. So she didn't have the preconceived notions of like orcs being bad, or like that, you know, 10 guys with their faces hidden are probably bad news in an alleyway and stuff like that. You know, like her background feature was, I think, called Friend of the Darkness or something, which was basically like a Xerox, like a rip of the damn it, what's the Aristocrats ability, where it's like basically you go places and people just open the door because like they know that you're rich. Except mine was that, except for like evil guys and bad news places and like the seedy bars and like dirty parts of town and stuff like that. People knew that she was that she was a familiar, that she was the familiar of the big bad guy. But they didn't realize that she wasn't like doing that job anymore. So she's like hanging out with these heroes and like going and trying to solve problems and stuff. And she's like, let's play with this guy. And by play, she means like try to murder each other. Because that's her favorite game. And that's like the games that she learned, being a familiar for the evil guy. And so we had a lot of fun with like, her not being really the right one to have in the social situations where they were like going and trying to like talk legitimately to some some like law force or whatever, or like ruler or noble or something. Yeah, that was very entertaining. Unfortunately, that game fell apart pretty quickly, just because of schedule commitments and stuff. But it was a very fun character to design and play. She was a rogue, of course, a swashbuckler rogue. So basically, my job was to get up in people's grills, yeah, I made great effect of that. We were also playing around with like how much she remembered, and like the GM was kind of using me as the hint machine. So like whenever we were trying to figure out some plot or ploy that the bad guy might be doing, then it would be like, Fangtail, do you remember anything? And I would be like, no, not really. Kind of lead them in the wrong direction occasionally, purely accidentally. So, yeah, I think what we decided was that she was, or rather what we assumed, because her race was basically like, what we assumed is that she's sort of like somewhere between a half dragon, half a half halfling and like a pseudo dragon. So yeah, she was very small and frequently sat on the big tank fighter's shoulder. The tank was a dragonborn paladin, as they so often are in 5th edition, and we had a gnome and me, and so we were both of us usually riding on that guy's shoulders. Yeah. Chaotic neutral can be a tough one to comprehend and deal with sometimes. We should lower these shoulders a bit, huh? Well, see, the problem with that analysis of chaotic neutral is that selfishness is an evil trait, right? So if you're literally saying like I'm only in this for myself, that's not chaotic neutral. That's basically neutral evil. So chaotic neutral has to usually be, in its most pure form, more of like, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, following whichever way the wind blows, as opposed to being like, no, I'm in this for me. You know what I mean? But then again, I guess we're getting kind of prescriptive in our alignment discussion here, so that's also sort of not the right way to think about it. I think my favorite way to have handled alignment in the past, in some of the games where I actually used alignment and the alignment rules more for the like mechanical benefits, because, you know, there's like certain, especially in 3rd edition, there were a lot of abilities that were triggered based on like what your alignment was treating it that way and saying like, it's not necessarily like how you act, it's actually like the stuff that you're literally made of. And so a lot of my favorite campaigns that used alignment a lot in 3.5 and 3rd edition were more like kind of designed around the idea of that alignment was like the four humors, basically, right? Like you have a certain amount of chaotic material in you, or the certain amount of evil material in you, and that like biases you in one way or another, and causes spells to affect you differently, even if that's not the way that you tend to behave. And I thought that was kind of an interesting take on it, because that campaign, or rather those campaigns around that time that I was running, were frequently about like the Blood War, and like the characters were frequently demons or angels or whatever, or related therein, and it made much more interesting characters out of those entities that are normally just kind of like, it just does this. It's just evil. It's always evil. Oh my god. Oh. Come here. Come here. Oh, get in my face. Here you go. It's like 9:30. Get out of here. What are you doing? Food yet? Oh, you pest. Oh my god, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Do I remember my first ever character? Okay, so since I was the GM, so let's have story time first. So my RPG upbringing is actually pretty weird, because oh yeah, just hug the mic. Yeah, that's a good idea. Snuggle with it. Face that way. So my RPG upbringing was pretty weird because a friend of ours had the second edition books, and I think he had them because his parents played them. This friend of ours was he was like a homeschooled kind of super nerd guy, and he, like, his parents had played D&D in college, and so he had their books, or rather, I think he had their books. Maybe he bought his own after the fact, but so we would hang out with him after school because he like literally lived across the street from the school that we were going to. This was like in middle school, so what happened was he had these books. We thought they were really cool, and then we would play with him, and he would like completely make shit up, like totally pulling shit over on us. He had a DM PC that was like a godlike tabaxi rogue character who was just like, it was like the kids like, you attack me, no, I dodged kind of like situation. Like everything that we did basically was overruled by our GM. But somehow we found some of those books. We like borrowed the monster manual of all things. Yeah, me and my best friend, and we like absconded with them and like basically independently developed D&D because all we had was the monster manual. We didn't have the player's handbook. We didn't have the DMG, but we knew what was kind of supposed to happen, basically from the way our friend had been running the game. And so we like sort of just hodgepodged it together out of the monster rules that we could figure out, and just pretty much just made shit up. And like, so what ended up happening is we played like that for a while, and then as we would get a new book, and of course we went absolutely the wrong way around. The next book that we got, I think, was the DMG. We would incorporate those rules into our version of what we were playing. And then eventually we got the player's handbook for second edition, and then we really got into it. Then we got like all the player's option and all the splat books for all the different classes and psionics and the manual planes, like the whole kit and caboodle. Started collecting at that point. And by that point, we already had so many characters and so many campaigns that there's no way I would remember who the actual first character that I ever played was. But my first main important character that kind of had an effect was my namesake, my channel. How do you point? There we go. Point that way. Arcandio was my first main real character that was in D&D that I got to play, because I was mostly the GM for my friend, and very rarely did I get to play. So what ended up happening is that we kind of co-ran a campaign where it would focus on his character while I was running, and then it would focus on my character while he was running. So that's where Arcandio comes from. That was my first real interesting player character. That guy has such a lurid backstory and everything. It's pretty cringy. He was the son of an angel and a devil that met in the Blood War. And so they had 4 children. They had 1 devil child, 1 angel child, 1 human child, and then 1 half angel, half devil child was the pick of the litter, basically. And so, because Arcandio was kind of the runt, nobody gave a shit about him, and they just sort of threw him to the wolves, basically. And okay, the mother and father are constantly they're an angel and a devil. They're not going to get along well. And they're in the middle of this war and everything. In the process of that, my friend's character, Darkfire, kind of picked Arcandio up out of the this kind of shitty, non-helpful family situation, and said look, this guy's got plenty of potential. I'm going to train him up to be our useful, the humanity's weapon against all of the bad shit that's going on, right? And so he got trained by the greatest mage in history, which was my friend's character, obviously. But he was a fighter, and at the time we were playing tons and tons of Diablo. So pretty much our entire mythology was based on the Diablo 1 mythology, right? And so Arcandio basically became a Diablo 1 fighter in that he had plenty of strength and speed and agility and stuff, but he also was taught magic by the greatest mage in the lands. So he was always changing up his tactics on how he was going to fight any given opponent. So that was kind of his shtick, was being able to kind of adapt immediately to whatever the opponent was going to do. So yeah, there's plenty of entertainingly cringy tales of he got thrown in an arena against a Balor and beat it with his bare hands and stuff like that. especially as a kid, I loved coming up with like the crazy way to figure out how to fight something, and like, you know, not, I wouldn't say begging, but like cajoling my GMs into like allowing me to get away with stuff that I probably shouldn't have. So that was like one of the first major times that I like learned that play style of like, let's see what the GM will let us get away with, basically, right? Okay, so the other question was, have I ever done vector art for a client? The answer to that is definitely yes, and also kind of. Like, back in the day, I did a few commission pieces like in high school and in college for a few people, but that was, you know, like, not, I wouldn't qualify that as professional or quality work either way. And some of those pieces were in vector. I did a very small number of like emotes and characters and stickers and stuff like that in college that were in vector. But more recently, one of the things that I really like about Clip Studio is actually that it has some vector drawing tools in it. So if I actually create a new layer here, and I'll make it like red so you can see the difference, that's very extreme. I can like make a stroke, and then I can actually use the vector tools to go back and edit that. And I use this a lot when I do like anime style, anime inspired work, because there's a number of awesome features in Clip Studio for this kind of thing, specifically that you can use the vector eraser. So that might have happened a little too fast. Let me do that again. So I'm gonna draw, say, like this box shape, and I'm like, I don't want these corners, so I'm just gonna slash those off. Notice that I'm not scrubbing them out. I don't have to spend forever like refining that line art. It's just done. So if I were like just kind of randomly dig in here and be like, okay, so I can kind of do a bunch of grungy stuff here, and then just trim it off. Yeah, I would not do it in Photoshop. I would, yeah, undo, Control Z that shit. Because like, okay, so if I have this whole thing just in as this is my sketch. Now, like if I get out my actual inker, it's a little bigger, so you can kind of, oh, that's better. So now I've got like a kind of an inker pen that I can use here. Then I can just kind of go in there and casually refine stuff. So see how I overshot that bit? Just trim that shit off. Then I can go back in there again and refine it as much as I need. And so basically what the vector eraser is doing is it's just saying, okay, erase everything on this line up until the next overlap that it hits. So if I like draw that, I can just trim that right off. If I draw, yeah, you're making it hard for me to get my arm position right. Also keep accidentally losing my pen. Yeah. So, like, I would not recommend working in Photoshop for vector. Depending on what you're doing, I wouldn't even really recommend doing vector in Clip unless you're, like, inking a character, right? Like, this is an inking tool. If you're talking about, like, doing, like, a real graphically oriented kind of, like an illustration or like an emote or a icon or something, I would use something like Illustrator or Affinity Designer or something. Something that's designed for that kind of thing. Did you say you got the Master Suite cheap for education? Because that would make things a little easier for you. Just try Illustrator. I was a big Illustrator fan for a long time. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that you would want to use. The reason why I would suggest that is because rather than, like, especially in Illustrator, I tend to try to separate the workflows as much as possible, right? Like, if you're going to be drawing, draw in a drawing program like Clip or, I guess, Photoshop. If you're going to be trying to vectorize something, use a vector program, because, like, while I can go in and, like, use the editing tools to, like, probably really hard to see on this because the screen is so small, but there are little nodes. Like as I move it around, you can probably see that there's a line and there's a node on it. But the problem with this is that there's just, when you do drawing with vector, to make the line appear where you want it to, any application is going to have to add like a ton of these little points, and the more points you have in vector, the harder it is to edit. You want to have as few points as possible in vector because that makes it much easier to edit things. So if I have, like, if I get out my continuous curve, my curve tool here, so there's one curve, and then in vector you can see that I only have 3 points to this, which means that I can very easily control a lot of that line with, you know, very minimal fucking around. Try to reposition it on this Ahoge here. So you can see that I would need maybe 1 or 2 more points to get this really nailed, but it's way more easy with a smaller number of points than if I had, like, all of these points, you know, and I had to move each one of them individually over to that thing. Because what happens is the smoothing algorithm doesn't do so well if you have, like, a ton of these different points, and so you end up having to kind of fiddle things back and forth and rejigger them around and kind of shift them into position really carefully, and that just gets fiddly and annoying. You can also, like, the other nice thing about Illustrator is that you can take something that you've drawn and then you can vectorize it, right? So if you draw something that's like, you know, brush. But if I had, like, something like this weird, say this is like somebody's icon or something, right? It's got like a little box eye, some kind of mask or whatever. In Illustrator, you can vectorize this, like, in one step. You just go click a button and it says, okay, make this a vector object. And then it'll put in the points along all these edges and lines and corners and stuff, and then you can edit that as. So that's a really, like, fast and easy workflow, because then you can do something like ink something in a drawing program where it's easy to draw, and, you know, you can refine your lines and stuff as much as you want. and then you can go ahead and vectorize it after the fact, and then do any coloring or effects or like, you know, icon style type stuff that you might want to do once you've got, like, chop this up into basically two parts. You've got the white part here and the black part there, and like whatever you want. So did that cover it? Did that make sense? Good. You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, like, I somebody else's hand here. Fuck all this. Oh man, I am not doing good on this piece today. Yeah, I mean, like, I enjoy talking about art, and like, I like talking about programs and stuff because I'm a tools guy. Like, I really enjoy doodling on. I like learning new tools, and I like having tools that are like really precisely fine-tuned for my workflow. Because I don't know, like, a lot of the advice that I got at Stephen's Point when going for art was like, an artist will always make the same piece regardless of the tool that they're using. Like, you'll always be able to tell that that's their style. But like, that's like asking a mechanic to change your oil with a bunch of wood shop. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, hang on, wait, what? How would you even execute that with the wrong tool? Like, they're tools. You need the tools in order to do the thing that you want. I totally understand the sentiment of like, it's not really about the tool when you're talking about your vision for a piece. But I don't think that I'm a good enough artist to have a vision for a piece all the time, and like, a lot of the time I just have to explore until I get to where I think I'm, where it's good, where it's good enough, you know. How am I talking about right now? Why am I talking about this? Tools, I guess, right? So like, I appreciate tools because when I enjoy using a tool, then I am enjoying the process of drawing more. Whereas if I have, like, for example, not to point any fingers, Painter, but Painter is particularly bad at this. I love the brushes that Painter has, but I swear to God, that interface is just bad. And like, ZBrush too. I think ZBrush is probably the worst culprit. Like, I was at a ZBrush users group meeting one time in Stevens Point. Actually, that was in Texas. And I asked them just straight up, like, are you guys ever going to change the interface of ZBrush to be like more in keeping with any other 3D application in the world? And they were like, yeah, no, not really. We just want we want people to think differently. And I was like, but it sucks. Like, it's terrible. Like, this is the worst way to. So, yeah, I have feelings, with a capital feelings, about Tool. You have no idea how excited I was when I found out that Blender was going to add sculpting support, and it was going to be pretty decent. I just need to do more sculpting, I guess. Yeah, I would not attempt such a brave and possibly foolhardy maneuver. Kakonim is a big fan of the line tool. He likes to like point click kind of his way. It seems. Correct me if I'm wrong. Whenever you're here, if you watch the VODs, but he likes the line tool because it like allows him to get really, you know, precise and not kind of have to do fiddly bits of line work I'm not great at. I don't even know where this staff should be. That's the problem here. Oh man, 10 o'clock already. Oh wow. Well, I'll be right back, and then I'm gonna keep sketching because I gotta figure out what the hell I'm doing here. Oh yeah, you guys are so lucky this time. You gotta suffer through another whoever knows how long of me. I hope you make it. It's a wacky crazy staff too. The reference that I have for this piece is very, very small and very blurry, so... You are already dead. I'm sure of it. No idea what we're even listening to right now. Sorry if it's terrible. Let me know if I need to change the track at any point, you guys. When in doubt, a man comes into the room with a gun. Whose advice was that? It wasn't Hemingway, obviously, but it was, some famous writers shtick. Somebody from a similar time period, I thought. I am not disagreeing with you. Okay, here's the staff. Now, the question is, what is a non-retarded pose for this? Maybe over the shoulder kind of thing? Completely behind. No, I have not. I've literally never had somebody recommend to me that I go to a dog show before. Yeah, I prefer reptile fairs. So, where we got our horns. Hey man, I got you there. I carried you. I kept you distracted the entire time. Or at least part of the time. And partially distracted. Well, I think I'm pretty much spent on this. It's gonna need some. So, I guess I'll see you all next week, Monday, hopefully, if I haven't gone insane, trying to figure out how to make Bridal Builder work. So, I will peace out too.